My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review for The Descent Part 2. And many people love the original. Like, people call it one of the best horror movies ever made. But nobody ever talks about this sequel, so I really had no idea what to expect from it. I didn't know what the plot was. I didn't know if people loved this movie or if they hated it, but I still went in with an open mind and I had fun with it. I think this is a very good movie. So it kind of shocks me afterwards. Well, it turns out everybody despises it, and this is just one of those cases where I'm on an island alone, but I would defend The Descent Part 2. And I wasn't sure if I was going to, because the way the plot kicks off is absolutely retarded. Like, you've got Sarah, immediately after the first movie, she's in a hospital. She can't remember anything due to the trauma she just lived. And the sheriff is just like, can she walk? Yes? Okay, we gotta take her back into those caves. And I'm just like, wait a second. You're going to take this obviously damaged and messed up person and drag them into a cave system. Like, are you for real? But then there's just so many stupid moments like that it started to feel like, okay, this is starting to feel intentional. It's starting to feel like schlock in the best possible way. And I started to get more on board with the movie after that point. There is a scene where she runs away from the sheriff, and the sheriff starts chasing after her with his gun. And I'm like, okay, I don't think this movie is meant to be taken seriously. I think it's just meant to be very campy, very over the top. And because of that, it does feel like a different movie than the original. The original is very tense and claustrophobic, and then it's very brutal and messed up, while this movie is more monster schlock the entire time. So it's different from the original, absolutely. Very different tonally, but I think it works to this movie's benefit. And because of that, I also found this movie to be more consistent than the original. And I just liked how the movie leaned into the absurdity, but it still manages to be tense when needed. Like, there were some moments that had me on the edge of my seat. And like I already mentioned, I've been spelunking. I loved it. I've squeezed between some tight places underground. And, like, it's fun, it's exciting, but it's also terrifying. And I feel like these movies capture that perfectly. I do like the environment they take place in. I do think it's brought to life incredibly well. So kudos to John Harris, the director, in that regard. But I would also say my favorite thing about this movie is just how mean and vicious it is. Like, there are some characters where you think they're going to make it, and nope, they do not. They get really terrible death, and that happens a few different times in this movie, and it just kept me on edge, it kept me entertained, it kept me engaged, and it just shows that this movie is willing to go for it. I also do think the practical effects in this movie look pretty good. The blood is definitely present, but so is the shit. And this movie can be gross, so I enjoyed that. I do see one of the biggest complaints with this movie is the lighting, because the first movie is very dark, you can't see much, and that works to that movie's benefit. It's immersive. While this movie's got a lot more lighting, you can see what's going on a lot more, so it does kind of lack in that atmosphere. And of course, it's not that realistic, because if you go into a cave system, it is pitch black except for the light that you have. But I also kind of think that the change in the look of the movie worked best for this tone of movie. So I will admit that it's not realistic, but it didn't really bother me all too much. I also thought the performances were really good for the most part. I thought Shauna McDonald did a really good job here. She carries this movie perfectly. I thought Douglas Hodge was perfectly fine as Dan. I liked Christian Cummings Stationer, who I thought did a good job as well. Gavin O'Hoarry as the sheriff, I thought was great. Like, he plays it very over the top, but it was perfect for what this movie was going for. Josh Dallas, I thought did a fine job. Anna Skolin, I thought did a very good job. And Natalie Mendoza, well, okay, let's get to it. So, like, slight spoiler warning here. But it turns out Juno did survive the events from the first movie, and she's in this one for the last act. And that's when the movie lost me for a bit. It's dumb and fits this movie's tone, but it also kind of undercuts the first movie. So I wasn't too big on that, and the last act definitely has its moments, but the way the movie ends I felt was unsatisfying. It's really stupid, and not even in a fun way. In just a way, well, it didn't seem like they knew how to end this movie, so let's just do that. I had plenty of issues with the last act. Also, I thought there was some odd editing here and there, mainly in the first act of the movie when they enter the cave system. And even though I do think this movie has tense moments, I do wish it was a bit more tense, a bit more claustrophobic, a bit more effective. But as a fun, campy, schlocky monster movie, I thought this movie delivered. I was entertained the entire time. It made me laugh every now and again. It made me react like, oh man, that's just nasty. It was very engaging. I thought for the 90 minutes it just flew by, so I'm giving The Descent Part 2 a 7 out of 10. I do think this movie's underrated. It deserves more credit. But The Descent Part 2, have you seen it? What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin out.